today. Thank you everybody for joining in today. Good evening, everybody. Now, just want to spend 5 minutes tops giving some bit of background into why we're here. We all know why we're here, but more importantly, why I think that is important that we pay attention to the changing landscape of skills and employment as it's going on right now. So I will start that by sharing some bit of my own personal story. It showed some background into why this has happened. Now, essentially, I just need you to understand that it doesn't matter wherever you are in your career or where you have been or what you've been doing the last few years or you've not even started at all. It's possible that you become a specialist a few months or a few years down the line if you choose to stay in this part of digital technology. Now, I started in the banking sector in 2008, specifically working in a commercial bank, and I was in the oil and gas department, had absolutely nothing to do with technology. And if anything at all I was doing was sales, very administrative. I started off with doing more administrative things and then moved on into doing sales. And of course, as years went on, I improved on into management, working with the top clients of the bank. I had to do proposals, do presentations, and of course began to lead a number of other people. Now, absolutely nothing to do with technology, but in that 6 years that I spent within the bank, I just I just knew that I had to do more. If I continued to do what I was doing years down the line, I would not become relevant. And somehow I knew that it had something to do with technology. I mean, mobile phones were becoming a big deal across the globe. With how we did things, were becoming more technology led. Now, what I didn't have anybody to lead me, and I didn't have sessions like this to listen to tell me that this is exactly what I needed to do and how exactly I needed to do it. But the good thing is, I got an opportunity to work in a digital marketing agency, and I was employed on the basis of my transferable skills. So things about around account management, things around leadership, things around interacting with people. So it was more about what I could bring to the table in terms of transferable skills versus what I knew in the tech space. Now, because of that, I was able to develop myself when I found the opportunity to change industries, develop myself. And from 2014 up until now, I've done digital marketing, I've done digital products, I've done digital projects, doing strategies. Now, I have skill to the point where I can now talk about digital transformation programs. And that's what I believe that some of us in this session, or if not all of us, you listen out for this kind of opportunities. Now, thankfully, or I will say thankfully, as it is right now, a lot of businesses are becoming technology-enabled businesses. And this is what I mean. You find that our retail stores, the stores that we go for our shopping, are moving online for us to be able to buy our stuff online. We don't need to go into the shop. All of that is enabled by technology. And they're going to need people like you and I to enable all of those, to build those platforms, to build those things. Now, if organizations are moving online or are using technology-based solutions for all the operations, they are going to need skills. And that's why we're in this session today, preparing ourselves for jobs of the future, becoming relevant today, and of course, preparing ourselves for jobs of the future for the next, say, 10 to 15, 20 years. We don't know how long that is going to be. Just in case you think, oh, well, but why I don't know, have any coding skills. I've already shared, I don't have any coding skills up until now. That can change this year or change next year. But we have data to show, Glassdoor data to show that within a technology organization, so think like a Google, think like an Amazon, 43% of those people or the roles that come out has nothing to do with coding. Only 57% has coding capabilities required. What does that tell you? It means that as long as you decide that this is what you want to do, there's opportunity for you. If you decide that, listen, I want to remain relevant, I want to scale up, I want to move industries, there's an opportunity for you within this 43%. I just want you to think transferable skills. What do I bring to the table? What can I do within this industry? What do I have that I can scale up and make myself relevant in this industry? Just one last point before I hand over and step back. I need us to really understand that things have changed so much that the World Economic Forum has said that by 2020, this roles, they are going to be top declining roles. But I want us to pay attention to the top emerging roles, the roles that are going to be relevant by 2020. I want to believe that by the time they wrote this, of course, nobody knew there was going to be a global pandemic that was going to shut everybody in. If you ask me, all of these roles have become very relevant in 2020. It didn't even wait up until 2022. So I want us to listen today, see what we can gain, what are the information that we want to walk away with to go and get ourselves ready and run with them. I'm going to step back now. I also want to listen to, these people are very experienced in this industry. I also want to step back and listen and see how I'm going to scale myself up. So I'm going to hand over to Tosin. Tosin is a Scrum Master at the Royal Bank of Scotland, and he's going to be helping us moderate the session, and he's going to be talking to the panelists. Now, on the panelists, you have individual who has had significant experience in another sector entirely, but has within 1 year scaled to become a senior person within the tech space. You have somebody who had our educational background is very different, but she's very, very active in the tech space. You have a talent acquisition consultant who's going to tell us how to position ourselves to get relevance in this industry. So I step back. I will come back towards the end of the session to share some more details. Thank you so much again. And Tosin, you have the floor now.
Thank you for that excellent introduction, Anu. All right, I'll just run through how I think this session is going to go. In the interest of time, I would also be timing people's responses as well. I'll give you a gentle nudge, but I do want this to be an interactive session. So far, we've got about 90 people on the call. The first half of it will be responses to questions that have already been sent in before this session, and one of our 5 panelists will be answering and responding. The second half of this would involve a more interactive live question and answer session. And what will happen is, if you want to ask a question, you raise up your hand using the Zoom tool, not physically, and I'll tell you how to do that when we get there. We would run, and afterwards there'll be some closing remarks from Anu, the lady you just heard, and then we call it a day. I'm very excited about all the knowledge that's going to get shared today. Without further ado, I'll just ask the speakers, Katie, Kevin, Tim, Funke, and Janet, to introduce themselves very quickly. Just give us, tell us your name, where you're speaking from, what organization you work with, spend most of your time in, and just a bit of experience relevant to what we're talking about today. 2 minutes, I'll give you a gentle nudge, and by 7:15 we can kick off the questions. So Katie, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Hi everyone, thanks so much for getting us involved in this event. I head up the talent acquisition team at Free Agent, Edinburgh based, but we have many remote colleagues around the UK as well. So I've been there for 3.5 years at Free Agent, but the company's been going since 2007. We're about 250 people there now. And what they produce is award-winning accounting software for micro businesses, freelancers, and their accountants as well. Before joining Free Agent, I have about 12 years agency recruitment as well, and previously worked in publishing and some sales roles as well. So I'm also joined, I should say, by Kevin, who's going to introduce himself. He's one of our engineering managers, and a number of other colleagues as well. So we have Ruth in sales, Doug and Ilsa in my talent acquisition team, and Matt Decken is a senior test engineer as well. So if there's other questions that crop up later, we've got some other knowledge to draw from. That's me.
So you brought your crew.
I did.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Katie. Tim, over to you. You might want to unmute, Tim. Can we get Tim unmuted, please?
Tim, you need to unmute.
Yeah, I was clicking on it on the wrong bit. So that shows my technological skills, doesn't it? Lovely to see so many people here tonight. I'm Tim Street. I'm from AAI, and we are a not-for-profit recruitment agency. And we have worked for the last 10 years across the UK, placing people across around about 1,700 employers now. So my role within that is to be operations manager, and I talk to pretty much all the employers we work with about exactly who they're looking for to fit into their teams and the skills, abilities and attitudes those people need to be successful. So here tonight, really talking about the people side of this rather than the technological side, because that's what I know more about, what I'm more used to dealing with.
Thanks, Tim. And people is all about skills. So yeah, I think we've got the right person. Jeanette, over to you. We'll unmute Janet.
Okay, Jeanette, you've been unmuted. Jeanette, you can speak
Lovely,
now.
thank you. It wasn't coming through, but thank you everyone for joining us today. Really glad you're here. I'm Janet, and following on from what Tim has said, actually, I'm in the middle of being partially techie and partially not, so I'll hopefully be able to help bridge that gap for you today. I am currently building a platform for the listing and booking of children's activities as a business. I've also already built a business during lockdown to help small local businesses and independent businesses get through this awful time that we're all going through, and that's a non-profit. And I'm also about to start a whole new different business. However, in order to pay for all of that, I currently work at Accenture, which I really do love as well. And in that, I help to deliver a range of different technical projects for clients in the financial sector, and that's me.
Thank you very much, Janet. Okay, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Good evening. Yeah, hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Funke Ogunjobi, and I am a qualified accountant. I'm currently a fellow with the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, known as the ACCA. I've worked in various capacities as an accountant, over the years. I've worked as a management accountant, a financial accountant. I've worked either as a supervisor or a manager in different capacities. I've worked in banks and non-bank organizations. Currently, I work in Llyods as a Scrum Master in their IT department. So that has been a significant change for me, with my background working as an accountant and then moving into IT. And it's been a challenging. It was a bit challenging, moving away from accounting and going into IT, and so that's what I do for now. I'm a Scrum Master, and I'm enjoying every bit of that.
Okay, thank you very much. Ina, could you please unmute all the speakers, and I'll go straight into the questions. Okay, our first question was: is it possible to transition into a career in digital tech without a background in IT? Janet, do you want to take that one?
Okay. Yes is the short answer. I studied politics and international relations at university, and since I came out of university, I haven't had any formal tech or coding training or anything like that, other than things that I've done myself in my own time. And I'm currently working in a role, and have been for the last few years, where I'm able to explain deep technical things to senior leaders in the organizations that I'm working with or for. So yes, you can. And it's also just about, if you know that you want to do it, planning the various steps in order to help you get there. I'll be able to share on this more, but I'll let others just speak on that now, and then I can just come in with more detail there, Tosin.
Okay. Funke, maybe you want to just share, just in a minute, a bit of your opinion on this question as well, seeing that you also came from an accounting background. Just get you off mute. Wow.
She should be on mute already.
You might need to. So we've asked you to unmute yourself. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I've done that a few times.
Okay.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, quite clear.
Yeah. So I was saying that I would just like to share what somebody told me, when I was, sampling ideas and running this through a couple of friends. And one of my friends told me then, he said, that you have to have the cake, and then there has to be the icing, on the top of the cake. So according to what she was trying to tell me then was that if you're going to go into IT, you must have an idea of what IT is all about, before you go into it. You don't just go into it as a blank, person. You have to have an idea. She said the reason why I could work in the bank, is because, why I could work in the bank as a Scrum Master is because I've already had that background in banking industry or, all along, because also I'm a qualified accountant, that it was easier for me to make that switch, and go and work there. So it's a different thing understanding their jargons, but the fact that it's an environment that you're used to is quite easy for you. But this is not really to discourage anybody here, because, we are of different makeup and our personalities are quite different. There are some people that can work just about, in just any industry, and they will, just be good, they will be able to connect quite quickly than, others. So it's not to discourage anybody. So you just have to understand who you are and how quickly you can adapt, when you find yourself in an environment that you've never been before. For some people, it can be quite challenging. I know some people who made such moves and they didn't last quite long there because it was just too much for them to bear and to take in, So if you understand the kind of person you are, that you're willing to learn, you're open, to just about anything, then please go for it. Don't let anything dissuade you. Just go for it. But if you know that it's going to take you a while to understand things, just take the time now to learn and understand a lot of things, and then see what you can do afterwards.
Thank you very much, Funke. Sounds like the answer to that question is yes. A few points that I took away were that, first of all, if you're within a sector, you can use your existing knowledge in that sector and make that switch. And also it's a lot about attitude and existing knowledge. So if you've got the can-do attitude, that works. And if you've got existing knowledge, that helps as well. And if you don't, there is a bit of work to do to fill the knowledge gap, but it's possible. Yeah, proof of that. Okay, with that said, I'll move on to my next question, which is probably going to come to you, Tim. It says, what is the average time frame to acquire requisite skills in digital technology? That sounds like how long is a piece of string? So try to put some context around it from your experience, Tim.
Okay, so in our experience, we have employers that like to go in early in a person's learning career. So some of the companies in Glasgow were asking us to find second-year students in terms of IT programming languages, because they want to get people early so they can shape those relatively immature IT careerists in the nature of their company. So you've got those at one end of the scale, and then you've got people who are employers rather that want a fully formed expert. And you're right, that is how long's a piece of string, because we've got people who have already talked about teaching themselves the skills of programming and coding to then use those in a work setting. But yeah, I mean, this question is kind of impossible to answer, because the other variable in it is that you may be a fast learner or you might be a slow learner. It would probably take me 10 years to learn what Janet's talked about, doing over the last year to make a platform to do something. So, yeah, it is impossible to answer, but I wouldn't let that put you off, because, like I say, lots of employers want people who are not necessarily fully formed, but are really hungry for learning and interested in problem solving and really curious about what these new skills and this new world's going to look like. So the combination of the enthusiasm for learning and the progress that's made is probably more important for somebody transitioning into this.
Okay, thank you. I think that's the right answer. There's no real average time frame for anyone. It depends. There's first and foremost, what I'm getting is that there's a broad range of skills, and for each skill set, there's probably a learning curve that you need to go through, and the time it will take for you to climb that learning curve or get past that learning curve will depend on your learning rate, how you learn, how much time you can devote to it, so your capacity. So a lot of things. Thanks for that. Next question. This is coming to you, Katie. What are the job requirements for those who don't have a background in digital technology?
This is where I cheat a little bit, and I have asked Kevin in advance to think about this one, if that's okay.
Yes.
Of our engineering manager, so probably more help.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin, over to you. Let's get you unmuted.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, there you go. So the question again, what are the job requirements for those who don't have a background in digital technology? From an engineering perspective, because there are other skills that are non-engineering as well.
Yes. I think before I answer this, I'm originally from Belgium, so I moved to the UK about eight years ago. And to answer that question, one thing I found in the UK is that the UK is quite good at interviewing people based on their skills, not what they studied before. So if it's your first time looking for an IT job, you'll probably be looking at a junior position somewhere, maybe a junior software engineer. And the requirement in most places would be that you have some experience already. So it could be that you do coding boot camps if it's in engineering, or can't remember what they wrote there. I'm cheating as well, reading my text. Yeah, so could have some experience of some projects. There's like transfer skills, as we mentioned before, that you can have, so you can highlight those in your CV. And yeah, like at FreeAgent, what we do in our hiring process is we have a coding test that anyone can take, and it just really depends on how good you do there, and you don't necessarily need to have a degree or do 5 years in IT to pass that. So yeah, that's pretty much like the requirements, I would say, from our point of view.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Kevin. So what I'm hearing is it also varies, and then depending at the level at which you're entering in the organization, mostly might be a junior level. But thanks for that engineering perspective. Just coming back to you, Katie, I would say FreeAgent is in the digital technology space primarily because your primary product is digitally distributed. It enables accountants, small businesses to keep their books. I use FreeAgent. So just thinking about other people you recruit who are not engineers, what would you say would be the job requirement for a marketer, for instance?
Okay, yeah. I'll run through what the different teams sort of tend to hire for. That might be helpful.
Okay.
So to pick marketing as an example, you'll find people with content and copywriting skills, digital marketing specialists, event organizers, videographers, email automation, and all of those have a test quite early on in the process. So when we hired a videographer last year, for example, they had to send us in show reels, and we had about 100 people send us in examples of what videos they could create. And so there was very much a skills-based assessment, not what degree have you got, or yeah, there was a CV as well, but it's very much about what they could show that they could do. Our customer support team, they all love technology as well. they have a great accounting knowledge or bookkeeping experience. They might have qualifications, but they also have a passion for helping people over the phone, email, and using web chat too. So we will test them on their accounting knowledge, but it's very much about how they come across on the phone and how they act with people. We have a UX team as well. It's very much about user research and interviewing people as well. And there's assessment-based exercises early on in that process as well. And our sales team, you know, they'll also have a passion for technology and how that technology is transforming what would have been quite a traditional sector, really. And taking that out to our accounting customers, and so there's a number of different routes in to the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks for touching on that point. So I'll just move on to the next question, which might come your way as well. If I was recruited for one of your remote positions, how will I be trained to work with your systems, for example? How will I be trained to work with your systems, for example? I think, not sure if that read the right way, but I think what the person is trying to ask is how would they get up to speed with systems training?
I think Kevin's prepared something for that as well.
Yeah,
go for it, Kevin.
So me again. So at Phrygian, the way we do it is we have an onboarding process. So you have you'll be joining a team, but you will have an overall company induction to you know, various bits of the company, how we work, how we plan, etc. When you join a team, and I'm going to talk specifically about an engineering team here. What you'll have is the first time you join in the team, within the first week, we usually prepare some work that are quite small, so that the person can start directly, you know, ship things to production, but also learning about our process. How do we communicate about you know, our work? How do we ship something to production? How do we make it live? And they'll go through all that process. It's usually within the first few weeks. In general, what you have is one-on-one with your manager. We have an expectation framework depending on your level. It's quite comprehensive on you know, what we expect you to be doing. And yeah, we also have the engineers at Phrygian built a coding game that people can take in to learn how the Phrygian app works and things like that. And then I would say, like, the best way to learn is just to do, basically. So you join a team, you know, we'll let you do some work. It can be working on bugs or features, but you will be part of it, a group. So you're never on your own. You always have the ability to pair with someone. There's always someone to answer questions that you might have. But there's a lot of resources that we give new joiners to understand the domain and how we work. So.
Very good, very good. Thanks, Kevin. What I took away from that was, which I think was very key, was the buddy system you've got in place. Buddy system is where you got someone assigned to you from your core team to be responsible for your learning and development, and you've got learning goals, and you've got skill gaps that you've got to, and training targets you've got to meet. Your learning buddy would be there to support you through the journey, as well as learning by doing, which I think is quite key. And with all the tools we've got nowadays, all the collaboration tools, I think it's quite easy to do that from remote locations from anywhere in the world. Thank you for that. Just moving on. Are there ways of getting internship opportunities in the sector? I think I'll give this one to Tim.
There are. I would recommend generally that we take take a definition of internship as being a paid work placement, not really up for advocating unpaid internships like the American sort of understanding of the word is. Our organisation built its reputation on fairly short-term paid internships that allowed people with little or emerging experience in various fields to get experience with employers. And around about 75% of those people then went on to full-time work either with that employer or with others in the field. Those internships obviously at the moment are a bit fewer and farther between, and for probably, you know, the next 9 to 12 months will be highly competitive. But they are out there. A lot of employers feel that internships work for them because there's a balance of risk. So to take somebody on for a short-term project and see how they perform, say 3 months or 6 months, is really worth it for an employer because, you know, it's a testing ground for somebody. It's really like an extended test, and therefore it's worth chasing down. And it gives you, the individual, the opportunity to get in there and really prove what you can do. And although we understand, you know, not everybody can go and do a living wage, well, so-called living wage, 3-month internship because it doesn't pay for you to live or fit your circumstances. But if you are able to do that at the beginning of a transition into a more digital career, it's a sound investment.
Okay, so these internships do exist. Tim is with AAI EmployAbility, and there are more resources that Anu will be sharing afterwards. So thanks for that, Tim. All right, moving on. What advice can be given to someone wishing to change their careers to enter the digital sector and in achieving the necessary and experience to do so? I think we've already answered that one. I'll move on to the next one. Okay, this is a key one. How can I stand out or make an impression in a crowded market? I think I'll give this one to Janet.
Thank you, Tosin. And that's actually a great question in terms of differentiating yourself from the competition. Now, if you know that you are interested in a certain career within technology, be that user experience, design, user interface, that kind of thing, try and build a portfolio of your own work beforehand. So if you know that the job you're currently in is not the job you want to be in technology or in the digital sector, volunteer with a charity or any other kind of organization that you would be able to use to build up your skills in your own time. Do a little bit of coding or learning if that's what you want to do, and just create a portfolio that you can then go and show to employers to say, look, I'm not in this line of work. I want to be in this line of work, and here's how badly I want to be in this line of work. And by doing that, they'll be able to see that you are already building the skills, you've got the right attitude to join them, and really it should be a win-win for everyone. So that's one of the key things for me. And secondly, stay on top of the industry news. Now, it can be a bit difficult because there's always a lot going on and it moves on very quickly. But for example, follow key people on social media because they do a great job of curating a lot of the content for you already, and you just have to read it and take it in. And again, by you having this information that a lot of other people wouldn't normally go and, you know, search for or get, it'll stand you in a much better and higher stead when you're having a conversation with somebody, even just the initial conversation with an HR recruiter, for example, even before you get to the more technical part of the role. If it's a technical role, having that kind of conversation with them will show them that you are aware of the key factors currently going on and not just plugged into the hardline work that you need to do. So that would be my advice there.
Thanks for that, Jenna. And you inadvertently answered the follow-on question, which was, with all the fast-paced changes in technology, how do I stay abreast of what's going on? While we move on to all the other questions, I'm just keen to make sure we add value on this particular question. Jenna, if you could give us 2 or 3 examples while we're moving on, not immediately, of maybe people can follow on social media. For those who are not too active on social media, potentially some news websites or some tech websites they could visit to stay abreast of things. And then we'll share that with everyone else. Okay, just moving on. Seems like we're doing well for time. The next question reads, for an organization looking to evolve from the traditional project delivery to product development and continuous delivery. So I think what they mean is moving from waterfall methodology to a more agile methodology. A lot of a dragon that I'll explain in a second. What will be your recommendations? So this sounds like this person is already in the tech space and they are delivering tech projects in a way that is now seen to be evolving. So rather than an 18-month or 20-month project where the customer comes to them and asks them to do something and gives them some money to do it, they go away and spend about 18 or 12 months doing it. And, you know, when the 18 months or 12 months is over, they hand over the product, the digital product, to the customer. Now, the evolving scenario in this is that it's done in really small chunks. So people that get organizations have a delivery methodology, are moving towards a delivery methodology where software is delivered in a span of 2 weeks or a month rather than half year or year-long projects. So with that context, the question again, what would be your recommendations? I guess this person is asking, or which organization do we move towards? I'm not too sure what the context of the question is, but if you did put in this question, why don't you raise up your hand in the next session? Unless there was some insight anyone else could take away from this, from the speakers.
I would say, having worked with some of the companies that are in this sort of agile working space, the people that they want to see from us are able to process their analysis of software and its use and its users, but also articulate that very, very well. So I suppose looking at this from the people side of things, there's got to be, as well as the technical sort of sat at your desk developing things, there's got to be an understanding of real world usage and the problems that people face utilizing the software, and the communication ability to jump between the two and to ask questions and to answer questions. So I think from our point of view as a recruiting organization, we're looking very much for people who can, you know, articulate an understanding of real world problems. And that's, for me, that comes back right to that first question of, can you transition your career into the digital space? I would say absolutely. And you bring a whole load of benefits with you when you do that, as long as you remember to package up that experience and bring it with you. Like Funke said, you know, if you've got a specialism, or even if you haven't got a specialism, make sure that you can talk about your experience and understand how people work, as well as the technical side of things.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. I'll just add a bit to that. The role, there is a key role concerned with user research, which Katie touched on, and that's user experience. They're user experience researchers, user experience designers, and they employ a myriad of surveys and field analysis techniques to figure out how a user uses software within the user's environment. So that's one role, you know, that is easily transferable from whatever sector you're in or whatever role you're in just now, without having to necessarily be a coder or an engineer. We've got 4 more questions. This part of the session is meant to take another 2 minutes, but I'll give us another additional 3 minutes and hopefully we can respond to all the 4 questions. Next one was, what are the steps to take when going into a new career like cybersecurity or business analysis? Okay, I'll answer the business analysis one because I used to be a lead BA for a very long while. for business analysis, there's two major pillars in the skill sets of a business analyst, a traditional business analyst in quotes. And one of them is understanding the users or the customer's requirements. So any skill or any course or any knowledge you can gain about learning what the user wants, why they want it, how it impacts their business. You know, business analysts are known for digging for problems rather than solutions. They're trying to find out the root cause of the problem and document and capture it so that it's easily you can communicate those problems easily to the delivery team. The other part of business analysis, which I think is quite key, is process thinking. So the organizations, especially large ones, run on processes, and people drive these processes. So as a business analyst, you're meant to seek out in a business area or a business context, what is the process that team is following to deliver the value that they bring to the organization. A good example would be, for instance, in an Amazon warehouse, the process in that warehouse would be when an order comes in, you know, someone takes that order or a system takes that order, the order is processed, or the person who gets the order gets a document on what the order is. They have a location where to pick that order. They pick the item, they put it in a tray, they deliver it to the part of the warehouse that will be distributing the order to the customer. And there are different documents that go along all the stages, you know, a delivery note, a way bill, all those kinds of things. If you have that kind of thinking going on in your mind, attacking every problem, either a warehouse or a business problem where you've got approvals and chains of approvals for certain access being granted to a system. And then I think those two core skills will help you. In terms of formal education, the British Computer Society runs certification modules for being a diploma in business analysis, and that's recognized across the UK. So just to take away the British Computer Society and just Google them and with business analysis, and you will see the career path of a typical digital business analyst. That's a lot of talking. Cybersecurity, is that one you can take away, Kevin? So the question was, what are the steps to take when going into a new career like cybersecurity?
I don't know if Katie wanted to go for it.
Okay, go for it, Katie.
No, just to surprise you, I was able to catch up with our head of information security this afternoon just on this very question. So he gave me some really useful tips for anyone looking to sort of break into the community. There's a really good network in Scotland called Cyber Scotland Connect. You'll find them at cyberscotlandconnect.com. So they've got a meetup in Scotland, and anyone can join. They've got a Slack channel as well where jobs are shared and opportunities for internships too. You can even ask questions, and there's some lecturers in the Slack group as well that might be on hand to answer any of your questions. They do have meetups once a quarter, and it's mostly in Edinburgh. They're now expanding to other Scottish cities as well. Obviously during lockdown, these are more digitally focused, but when they are happening, you know, you can go along and hear industry experts. There's also an open mic session and free beer and pizza. There's also a conference every year at Dynamic Earth called Scott Secure, which is free to attend, which I thought was quite unusual for conferences. Normally you have to pay quite a lot of money for these things. From a study point of view, getting a certified ethical hacker courses, CEH. You can find these on Udemy and other online providers. And for formal education, Abertay University and Napier have good cyber forensics and ethical hacking courses as well.
Thank you very much, Katie. There's two more questions, but I'm keen to get people asking questions that haven't been sent in. The one was How do I upgrade my role while I'm contracting? I'll probably answer that if there's enough time to do that afterwards. And the other was, how do I transition from a business analyst to solutions architect? I've got good responses for these, so please stay. Okay, that's us moving on to the next part of this session. Just as a reminder, if you want to ask a question, use the Zoom feature to raise your hand. Now, if you're using an Android or an iPhone, there'll be three dots. There'll be three dots somewhere on your screen, either top left or top right or bottom right. If you click on those three dots, you get to the more features setting, and then probably third or second from the top, you can click the raise hand option. Now we've got Tari Ogidi. I hope I got that right.
It's okay.
Please go ahead and ask your question, and if you have a specific speaker you want to direct it to, and tell us where you're calling from, please.
Okay, my name is Tari Ogidi. I live in Edinburgh. I work as a software developer. I work as a contractor currently. It's not really a question. It's actually a response to one of the questions that was asked. The one asked about how can you transition from using a waterfall model-like way of approaching a project to an agile way? My answer,
you've got 2 minutes.
My answer to that is to come up with a plan, because you would have to convince the business. When I say the business, I mean your users or the people, your clients. It's to come up with a plan to explain to them that, okay, this is the whole project. We would like to break it into bits, and we would want you involved in every stage of the project plan, and tell them we'll give you this outcome at each time, and you need to have regular meetings with them. That's a way of transitioning from the waterfall. When I first started programming, I did the waterfall model where I finished the whole thing in 6 months and give it to the business. Then they come up and say, oh no, we want this, we want that. But currently I run with the agile way of working, where each week someone from the business comes and sees what we're doing. So from the very start, they can correct whatever they don't work, instead of we progress so far and then I say, oh no, we don't want this. Like one of the projects I was involved in before with NHS, they didn't want something we're doing. But if such was mentioned from the beginning, we wouldn't have got into those issues. So it's the basic thing is come up with a plan, explain to them the steps that we'll be using in that plan, then have regular meetings with them where they can contribute and tell you, we want this, we want that. They give you their specifications, whether it's a should, could, would. So there are things that they might need, but they don't really need, but there are things that they really need. So those things you should put at the start, if that's going to affect what the end product will be. At each stage, you kind of give them a minimum viable product. So it is possible to transition. It all has to do with planning and explaining to them that this is how we want you involved from the start.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like we've got anyone else raising their hands. Remember, you can just raise your hands using the Zoom feature. If we don't have anyone, I'll just go on to the next question. So how do I upgrade my role whilst I'm contracting? I think I can answer this one, unless anyone wants to go for it. Funke, do you want to go for this one, or you're happy for me to take it? Okay. All right. So this is an interesting one, because while you're contracting for any organization, the organization really doesn't owe you a personal development path to the next level of your career. And that's something people tend to struggle with from time to time. What I would say is, if you contract, you should find some mentors in the organization at the next level you want to get to. And that's one. Your personal development is solely your responsibility. So as opposed to a permanent employee where they've got a manager who has a target to develop their people, a contractor's target is solely based on they are accountable for their development. And basically, you need to capture your development plan you have short-term goals, medium-term goals, but you need to figure out where you want to be in the long run. I think that's the most I can say about that, unless anyone else has anything to add. No. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. How do I transition from being a business analyst to a solutions architect? Funke, do you want to take that one? Yeah. Janet, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So I was just going
Funke,
to.
okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So is it how do I transition from BA to solutions architect?
Correct.
Yeah, I would say that if you're currently working now, you could actually speak to your line manager to see if you can take another role in secondment in an area that you really want to transition into, if that is, workable in the office. Because I've seen a couple of colleagues who had gone into a totally different department, just to learn of them, because that is what they are looking to become, at a later time. So if that is something that is, applicable in your office, you can actually employ that and, make use of that opportunity. And another thing really is to find a way of getting yourself involved in maybe working with, with some charity organizations where, they've got this as one of the roles that, they have in the business. And also you can actually go out there and learn about it. You can pay, there are lots of organizations, running courses, and they tend to equip people in this line of knowledge as well. So you can go there, you can pay to learn it. You can, take another role within the organization just to observe, what they do and, get that hands-on experience as well. So there are different ways in which you can actually, transition from a BA to solutions architect. And also you've got some other teams within, some businesses that they're actually looking for people who are multi-talented. So you can actually see if you can work in that, in such a team as well, just to see how they do stuff, and you can learn from people who are actually solutions architects and learn from them. So there are different ways really in which you can transition.
And I was just going to say really quickly to add to that, I know that sometimes the current place of work that you're in can be a bit inhibiting in terms of trying to move within the organization. And I'm a big advocate of looking to the tech community. I found that the tech community is one of these communities that is actually, people are always willing to really help. And as Katie mentioned earlier, there are meetups for cybersecurity people, there are meetups for BAs, for solutions architects, for agile ways of working and different things like that. So literally get yourself into one of those communities. People will be more than willing to welcome you, to help you, and you can also start to slowly upskill yourself through that and also open up job opportunities for yourself, maybe not within the current organization you're in, but in the wider field.
You mentioned meetups, Janet. Was that physical meetups?
Well, currently they're happening virtually, but yeah, I'll be able to provide some more information on the different ones that are available for the different disciplines all over tech and digital.
Okay, just for the people who don't know, there is a platform called Meetups, and I guess this is what you're referring to, Janet, where people can go on those platforms and join communities of practice across the globe.
That's right, yes.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay, final question we had. What are the requirements for being a digital technologist? Quite a general question, but I think we've answered it in an earlier question, which was what are the job requirements for those who don't have a background in digital technology.
One thing for me to add to that quickly, Tosin, again, is for you to be inquisitive and also to be a problem solver. So a lot of the opportunities I've gotten over my career has been because I've just always asked lots and lots of questions, and I've also been very well networked in my organization. So I always pretty much knew what projects were going on where, even in departments that weren't anything to do with me. And through that, I was able to hear about roles that were coming up before they were there. I was able to volunteer my time and other things like that. And as a result, I was able to move on and up throughout the organization. So just be really inquisitive, ask lots of questions, find out lots, and yeah, that'll be really helpful.
Yeah, I think I could add to that as well. What I've noticed is a general strategy for mapping out a career, because we're talking about building, right? So building is not just how do you get in, it's also how do you evolve in an existing role. And people would, I find, or I've learned, get stuck in a rut after a while and moving or get comfortable or complacent, and they really don't have a clue or an idea of how to move ahead or progress or do something different at the same level. And I'm a real advocate for finding someone who's already successful at what they're doing and where you want to get to, and just copy them. Or send them an email and say, hang on, how did you get to where you are? I want to do what you're doing now. It's so powerful, because we don't know how much people are interested in giving the knowledge they have until you reach out to them. And I found that has worked for me in my career. So I'll encourage people, and they call them mentors. People call them all different sorts of things. But basically, like Janet said, using your existing network to get to where you want to go. That is the end of our questions just now. I don't see too many hands raised. So, I mean, that's a good thing, because that means all the knowledge we just gave, everyone has understood it quite clearly. Okay, there's someone else.
There's a last question.
Yeah.
Somehow I don't think it is. So it says, my question is, are companies only recruiting fresh graduates for beginner tech roles? I have 8 years experience in software, telecoms, IT consulting. Do they have position for my experience set? I think Tim and Kathy can help with that.
Yeah, so people that have come from different, so a different sort of career, the telecoms consulting, I'd probably need to know a little bit more about what that involves. But a lot of the people coming into our junior engineer roles, for example, or other technical roles, they can have had many years experience in a different role altogether. To take it to an extreme, we've had one of our software engineers join us who was a chef for many years, a very accomplished chef, and was able to self-teach through online courses and build up the skills necessary, and came in through our support engineering team, which is a sort of a hybrid between engineering and our customer support area. I don't know if that answers the question, but a lot of the people joining and applying have had previous careers doing something else or slightly related.
Hi, Tosin.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I can ask a question. So since
sure.
tech is the future, some of us are already stuck in other careers like accounting and whatnot. So just thinking of the younger generations, the teenagers and maybe our younger children, if we were to give them guidance, not necessarily tell them what to do, but we were to give them guidance along those lines, what's the best way to go about it to start getting them into tech and getting them ready for the future? So maybe Janet or one of you guys can answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, go for it, Janet. Yeah, we'll mute you. There you go.
Thank you. Get them started now. So I have a 7-year-old son, and as part of his homeschooling on a daily basis, he is learning to code. Now these, as MKT and I think Kevin mentioned earlier, there are coding games that can start to introduce you to the principles of the various languages like JavaScript, HTML, PHP, different things like that. So actually just get them interested in it by them being able to build their own games, so they probably don't actually see it as learning. And from that, I think the interest will really be there. again, STEM subjects are, being very well encouraged now. And it's also, again, another way to just ensure that the science, the technology, the engineering and math subjects that are in school, that they really do stick with that. Now, for those, again, who aren't necessarily super academic, there are other ways such as games and other learning that they can build this. Now, this is an area that I'm super passionate about because, for example, we know that we need more ethnic minority people, more women, things like that in tech. And as we are building the future with artificial intelligence and data, different things like that, we are feeding these computers a certain kind of data, and that isn't representative of everyone. So as much as we can, get your children, as I said, involved playing coding games, which actually adults can also use as their first foray into coding. And from then on, it will be instilled at a very early age, more so than it was for us and others.
Anything from anyone else?
I think one of the things that's potentially useful as well is this idea of solving problems. So there's what Janet says is absolutely perfect, and I wish I was better at getting my kids to do stuff like that. What we've tried to do is to get them to complete tasks, because what employers want and what problems need is for impact to be had. And we tend to forget this. We tend to say, right, well, I'm good at this thing, but employers want you to be able to apply that to the problem that they've got, come up with solutions and finish something off and have some impact. So okay. I think for kids who get really excited about doing stuff but then get bored quite quickly, short tasks that they can complete and have satisfaction from actually getting stuff finished is really, really useful as a mindset to get people into as well.
Key. There's a certain mindset to engineering and coding process, start to finish. Okay, we've got a bit more hands up now. We've got about 4 minutes before this part of the session is over. Solomon Francis, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah.
Hello, Solomon. Are you there?
He needs unmuting.
Yeah. I think we've requested. I've asked you to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
So yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I have a question.
Go for it.
I'm a student of. I'm doing my master's degree in cybersecurity, and I'm supposed to go for a placement. So whenever I ask people about the field of cybersecurity, because I want to move into the cybersecurity field, I've been a technical support engineer for a while, for about 3 years, and whenever I seek advice, I get the advice of you need to do a 2-year technical course before you be able to go into this cybersecurity world and all that. So I want to ask if there is any advice from you with respect to career in cybersecurity.
Oh, are you looking for a shorter way to get into the career?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone want to pick that up?
Somewhere like Accenture, for example, you would be able to get a graduate role. They're called analysts, but you would be able to get a graduate role, which would bring you into the organization and train you for a couple of years in the security field before then being promoted to the next level. However, that is still a couple of years. I guess the difference between that and what you've explained is the fact that you'll be getting that hands-on experience whilst also potentially doing the qualification as well. So it's really worth actually looking into the organizations and looking at the requirements, because a graduate doesn't mean that you're fresh out of university. It could just also mean for career changes and different things like that. And I know Accenture aren't the only organization that do that as well. So yeah, you should try or even apprenticeships can also be a way in for you, whereby you're getting that qualification whilst getting hands-on experience, whilst also getting paid.
Thanks for that, Janet. So we've got another 3 questions, but in the interest of time, we'll take one, and then we'll go to Anu to give us a brief closing remarks and the resources she's put together for this. After that, can I ask our speakers to stay on for another 5 minutes while we go through the last 3 questions, if that's okay? Just nod if it is, and do that if it's not. Thank you. Okay, so Feyi Alabi, can you ask your question, please? We'll just see if we can take you off
Okay.
mute. All right.
Yeah. Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. So this is just a follow-up question on what was asked earlier about if you've had quite a number of years of experience in a particular field before, and how you can get a foot in the door into tech. I think Katie answered the question like that about a chef moving into an engineering position. Okay, for me, I had like 6-7 years experience in oil and gas before I moved here to do a master's. And of course, I'm enthusiastic about tech and would like to get into a role in tech. So I want to ask, maybe Tim or Katie could answer, what would you like me to what would you like someone in my position to demonstrate on their CV that would make you actually want to, give them a chance, an interview, giving them a chance to get a career in tech and to build a career in tech? What would you want me to put first up front on my CV, to show?
Basically the cheat sheet.
So, well, I'm glad you asked. I'll try and race through some things. Accompanying the CV, it's really important to have a little cover letter as well, which is not a duplication of the CV. It should be like highlighting some common interests between you and the company, and some of those key things that have sparked that passion and that interest in you to even apply for the job. And then your CV, I think if you're changing, if it's not sort of formal experience, whatever, you might want to have a section at the beginning, experience and education, or relevant to the role. And you can put volunteer experience, you can put, your studies, side projects that you've worked on, as well as relevant experience. But it's all valuable, I think, is the point, whether it's been a paid employment or not. So having that section where everything's relevant at the top, and then you can go into the regular timeline from present backwards. So that would be my advice there. There was another couple of things I wanted to add in, if it's okay, just to take a minute. Is that okay, Tosin?
Yes, go for it. Okay.
With regards to presenting portfolios, I didn't really mention design roles, but we do have 2 design teams here. If you are submitting a portfolio, instead of just the final screenshots of the end result, we do love to hear about the journey that you went on, the problem you were solving for the customer. Why was it a problem? What were the different approaches you tried? Which ones didn't work before you got to the ones that did work? And then at the end, how did you know that it worked? Did you test that solution? So that's really helpful to have a couple of case studies in your portfolio, not just the beautiful shots of how it all looked at the end. And just one more thing about a phone interview. If you do get a phone interview, we love it when the person at the other end of the phone comes alive, and we feel that warmth and your personality coming through, and just to hear what it is that sparked the interest in the role in the first place. And we do expect it to be a very much a 2-way conversation, rather than just information gathering.
Thanks a lot for that, Katie. Okay, Anu, over to you.
Oh yes. Sorry, I really time is gone. I wanted Tim to say, but I think we just allowed that to pass.
What we'll do, Anu? I think what we can do is we'll finish officially at 8:15. But if people want to stay on till 8:20 or 8:25, if the speakers can, then we'll carry on.
All right, great. So let me just go right ahead and share the resources that I have. This is something that I thought, and I still believe that is very important. Now, you mentioned, for example, somebody mentioned having significant experience in another industry, just like myself had in banking and Funke had in accountancy. This is something I believe that you should do, is to get yourself very much involved in volunteering work. And this is something that I found that is absolutely very much alive in the UK. Now, Digital for Good is an organization that is set up to help to deliver technology-led solutions for charity organizations. I am personally, if you check my profile, you see I'm personally involved in this group, and I'm working on an artificial intelligence product. I've never had that chance, and when I found this opportunity, I jumped at it. What that does for me, of course, is I'm working on a real project. I'm meeting other people, meeting the entire team. I'm getting opportunities to see how people do things in their own organization. And that way, when they are able to tell me what new opportunities are in the organization or things like that. So I would recommend Digital for Good. It's an organization I think you should go for. Another one you should pay attention is Code for COVID. Again, this is in the UK. Now, I'm going to talk about a lot of companies in the UK, but if you're not in the UK and you're listening to this, that's fine. You know why? Because everything is happening online between now until the end of the year, and it's open to anybody. So if you can get yourself involved in this project, do it. Code for COVID is set up to help organizations in the UK who want to transition online, who are building websites, building enterprise solutions, and they're just go onto their website. They have a whole list of people that they're looking for, different expertise and things like that. Again, real project, networking opportunities. I live in Scotland, so Scottish Tech Army. Now, this one is very interesting. Again, massive, working on different projects. They're always there. The other day I saw them calling out for a cybersecurity expert. Somebody, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name now. You're talking about looking for experience in cybersecurity. I think you should go in here, be active on this platform. They're working on real projects. They're networking opportunities again. But there's something different they are doing this time. So they have
30 seconds.
Oh yeah, it feels like an interview where I have to quickly rush through.
Sorry.
But they have set up a mentoring and body scheme where you are paired with somebody who is significantly experienced in whatever area you're interested in, and that becomes like your mentor. But they've also set up a place where job opportunities will now be posted. Of course, it's going to be very, very competitive, especially now with the pandemic, but I would recommend it. Go on there, look at opportunities that are on there, become active there, make friends there, just get yourself very much involved. Now I've given 3 different platforms. Data Tech is if it's data analysts that you're interested in, data scientists, you get your certifications here, skill acquisition, networking as well. One place that I also tried, this is paid, this is not free, is a company called Digital Bananas. You work on real projects again, but this time around it's paid. It's almost like you get paid to get some experience. I think my time is up, and thank you to everybody who has been part of this session. Thank you to the guys at Free Agent. Casey, thank you so much to you and the entire team that came on board to help me with this. The Edinburgh Black Professionals, I'm entirely grateful. Thank you to all of the speakers. Thank you to Funke. Thank you to team. Thank you to Janet. And I want to say thank you to everybody who was dialed in on this call today. Without you, there would have been no point to this webinar. Thank you so much. So, Tosin, back to you.
Thanks, Anu. So, yeah, we deserve a clap for all the speakers as well. So for everyone we still have 3 questions to go through. This is officially the end. So if you have other things to do, feel free to dial off. We won't judge you for it. Lawrence, do you want to ask your question, please? Lawrence, are you there?
Hello, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Anu, and thank you, everyone who has spoken. Some of my questions apparently has been answered. But quick one, Anu, I just want to get, my background is in commercial banking in Nigeria, and relationship management basically, and looking at moving into tech. So I want to get your point again. I was going to ask you, but then it has been answered. The communities you mentioned, I didn't quite get the first two that you said you can join online, to seek mentoring and then ask questions and go about our research basically.
Not to worry, I'm going to send an email to all participants where I'm going to have all these resources. Katie has also shared personally with me other resources. So there are things like people returning back to work after career breaks. For people like yourself, there are organizations that you can join and be part of.
Great.
So I will share with all participants, and then you can just go in and do your research.
Oh, good. Thanks so much. I appreciate it, everyone. Thanks.
No worries.
All right. Hope that answers your question. So we've got Tariere Ogudi with another question.
Hi, my question is, I've worked as a software developer stroke software engineer for about 5 years. I currently enjoy what I'm doing a lot, and I don't want to stop coding. But I want to know, how do I know what's next in my line of career? How to move? How do I know what's next ahead of me? I know generally they say after working as a developer for several years, you might want to go into the role of managing new developers, trying to build them up. But I would like to mentor someone, but I don't want to go into the management role where all they do is attend meetings and write reports. I want to continue developing my whole life. But what's next for me? I've worked as a senior software engineer, but what's next for me in the line of a developer?
So that's an interesting one, right? There's actually a site, I forget the name, but I will send it along with the resources that a group of people, I think is skills for the future. SFIA, that's what it's called, SFIA. And what they've done is they've cataloged skills at different levels in the organization. And this is a number of private sector industry leaders, a number of government sector industry leaders, and they've come together, formed this organization. And there's a skills matrix which details levels 1 to 7, and it also details the skills you require at each level. It also details what career path you can take. So that could give you a starting point for an inspiration from a formal perspective. Check SFIA, Sophia. From my experience, you can literally go in any direction because coding is almost like the start in the digital world. So if your interest is less in managing people, I would say senior specialist. You've been in the senior specialist role. You could, if you like to take charge of projects, you could move into a project manager role. And where your skills would be very, very relevant is because you'll be able to speak 2 languages. You'll be able to speak to the delivery team as well as learn new skills to speak to your stakeholders. And that's quite powerful. There's something called T-shaped individuals. These are individuals that have got depth of knowledge in one thing. In your case would be engineering or coding, but the bar across the T represents broad knowledge in other things, broad shallow knowledge in other things. So I mean, your options are literally wide open for it. Solution architect, project manager, UX senior lead designer, or user interface. I mean, the roles are endless.
Harry, I will also share with you on a personal note something I found online. It's the JP Morgan mentoring for women. For women in technology. So you might likely find somebody who is able to mentor you and talk you through what next to do. I know there was a lady I met at JP Morgan who, just like yourself, used to code, but she's now vice president something. Sorry, I've forgotten the title, but she manages a program, so projects. So she gets involved in all of the day-to-day, but it's on a very senior level.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Tara, just to flip it back. So you may also want to consider, apart from where do you go next, also what can folks benefit from you. So you may want to consider mentoring others as well. And that's part of what we are putting together at Edinburgh Black Professionals, but we can speak about these offline.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the plug, Enoch. Amal, I think you're next.
Well, I just had a quick question. So I have a human rights background. I'm currently doing my master's in that, but I've recently been interested in AI. So I wanted to know if it was worth it for me to maybe try pursuing jobs in the tech space, because right now, so far, I've only done the Harvard CS course online to learn how to program, but I don't know if that's enough, or if I should go ahead and maybe do one of those MSc computer science courses so that I could learn even more. And then the final question was just, how do I find out about like tech companies and who should I follow? Because I guess I know a lot about human rights, but I don't know so much about AI.
Interesting one.
Amal, I'm going to tell you this. I'm not a recruiter, of course, team and Kathy can, but I'm going to say that hands-on experience is, we have just 1 minute. Hands-on experience, when you're coming into an interview, you're coming to a session, and you're talking about projects that you've worked on versus just what's on your CV, I would recommend that you find projects or organizations that you can go and learn from, either as Kathy said, internship, or Janet said, internships, apprenticeships, or some of these organizations that I've listed where you can get hands-on experiences, and then add certifications or add the degrees to it. That way you'll be able to stand out because you have a very interesting background already.
Okay, thanks for that, Anu. Test, I think you're next. If you could unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks you guys. You guys have a lot of stuff going here. I think my question is similar to a couple questions ago. I'm in a senior position as well in SAP security. So I'm also thinking of kind of going to another area if possible, but not into more of security, not into cybersecurity. I'm not interested in cybersecurity. So you mentioned something about getting into a place or opportunity where I can have like a little knowledge in broad knowledge in like all other areas. Can you repeat that, please? I'm kind of interested in that.
Okay, it's a concept in talent development called T-shaped individuals, where if you've already got one set of skills and you've got a lot of experience in that sector or depth of knowledge, the vertical part of the T is that bit. Now the horizontal part of the T is where you pick up different things based on, you might be, for instance, an accountant who has worked in a sector that has little to do with accounting, so to speak. So I think what I was driving at with that was trying to say that, the careers of the past have been, you stay in a company for 30, 40 years doing the same thing. Right now, if you move from a bank to an airport or to a startup like Free Agent, you're going to be picking up different skill sets as you move across these different organizations or sectors. And you find organizations, I think, find that a bit more valuable. They find you more attractive because, like Tim said, your problem solving acumen increases quite well. I also mentioned the SFIA framework, if that's what you were talking about. SFIA.
SFIE, what's that, please? I'm not sure I understand that.
Okay. SFIA is a global skills framework. I'm just reading it off online now. And if you Google SFIA, it's almost the key value add I took away from that framework was they had a skill matrix that showed all the different skills, describes those skills, and it shows you what you need to do to move from one level to the other. So it's almost like a group of people got together and got the standard of what skills for the information age should look like.
Okay. All right.
we're way past time.
Well, way past time. We've got
Yeah,
more people
thanks so
raising their
much.
hands,
That's
but
fine. Yeah.
okay. But I would encourage everyone to just wait for Anu to send out the details and the resources on call. This call is being recorded, so we'll share a link to an edited version of it as well, and we'll have to end the call here. So if you've got more questions, get in touch with Anu, and she'll be able to point your questions in the right direction.
You can just reply to the email you received, giving you details, or when you registered, I will receive it. And then if it's the specific speaker that you want to answer, I will direct it to them and then respond to you. Thank you so much, everybody, once again. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Have a great week as well.